Jonas just wanted to talk for a little bit, just kind of about some of the extremes that we're going through and kind of how to deal with it, or what we're doing, or what's going on, or what have you.
What's up with that?
My name's Jonas. I have a landscaping and gardening business called EcoMan, and we were at the board meeting last week discussing this event, and we were talking about replacements, warranty, wrapping, and through the conversation came out that there's a larger context to this, which is changing weather. And so what I want to take a few minutes of your time to just talk about the kinds of things that I'm thinking about and that we were thinking about as a group as to thinking about for next year and for the years coming. So I'll go through a few of the things. You don't have to write anything down because I wrote it all down. You can look at ecoman.ca. There's a little link. And I'm going to give you 3 numbers for your Christmas dinner family conversation. That's on there too, and it's all referenced from like Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This is not made up stuff. This is like all the real stuff. Anyways, so the bigger context is this. There's in Copenhagen, there's about 160 countries that all signed on to, this is the first number I'm going to give you, is to the number 2, which is if we go beyond 2 degrees of warming, we're into like some post-apocalyptic, nightmare scenario where nobody's doing any business really at all. And in order to keep within 2 degrees, the scientists came up with all the models, and they agreed on that we have about a 565, that's the second number, 565 gigatons that we can spend. That's our carbon budget that we can spend, right? The only problem is that we're currently spending about 30 gigatons per year, and it's going up, not going down. And what's even more scarier than that is that the number, this is the third number, is 2,795 of gigatons. That's already on balance sheets in oil companies that are all being evaluated. So their stocks are all valued at a certain amount. They're saying, well, we have all this oil, so we want to be valued at that amount. So we actually have 5 times more already on balance sheets that's discovered. This isn't new stuff. This is the stuff that we already have in the ground ready to go, which is 5 times more than our budget. So we are going in a certain direction, and that direction is to go over 2 degrees. The point is that I don't want to waste any time with that. That's sort of like where we are, and there's nothing that any of you guys and I can do about that. That's sort of like something for the world leaders to figure out. But it does affect what you're going to do next year and the year after. So I came up with a few things that we were talking about, and I think Janet touched on them. So how does this impact our business? Obviously, replacements. The things that, for some companies, this was a big benefit. I mean, if you talk to nurseries, some of them had their biggest years ever this year because they're selling more trees to more landscapers that are replacing stuff. The second thing about replacements is that for a lot of landscapers, it's going to kill you because you have to come back and you're not spending time on new money. You're actually spending labor on old work that you've already gotten collected for. So it's a real, you got to be really careful about your warranties. So the things that I'm thinking about is what are you going to do about your warranties for next year? Are you going to offer extended warranties as a separate thing? Or are you going to offer a warranty and just add more than you usually do for that warranty? Like we used to just warranty everything for a year and just hope that everything was fine and not really add anything. That's not going to work going forward if we continue to have these difficult winters. More stuff's going to die. So thinking about your replacement strategies, what you're going to do about your warranties. Are you going to offer a 2-year, a 1-year, a 3-year? Is it going to be separate from your, can you offer an extended warranty that's completely optional? Maybe that's the way to go. So something to think about for next year. And then Janet touched on this a lot. If you are going to warranty stuff and you are planning on replacing everything, then you got to be thinking about changing practices. Wrapping, changing your technique with the wrapping. And for the landscapers out there, I spent my first month just replacing steps that had literally been popping off of concrete, like walk-ups, right? So they had the coping and the mortar just turned to sand, and everything's falling off, and it was just, you know, the frost, the water gets into it, and it was poorly done in the first place, most likely, but, you know, half my calls this spring were just, can you fix my steps? So, you know, warranties on that stuff too. Do we need to look at how things are being practiced in colder climates? You know, what are they doing in Saskatchewan and Alberta as a regular standard that maybe we don't do? You know, maybe there's special additives that you can use in the mortar mix. So these are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about for installation, and certainly would help affect replacements and warranty. Two more things. This is something that Janet brought up again, is the idea of a public backlash from your clients who are, you know, they paid big money for this tree and now it's dead, and you're losing a client because, you know what I mean? So those kinds of things are really something to think about, and I would say even further as an industry, really having good, strong messaging about the benefits of trees, so that we don't get to a point where people are like, well, you know, it's going to die anyways. I'm not planting any trees because it's like there's no point to it. So I think that we really have to be mindful of that. You know, if we are going to plant trees, we want to be planting the right tree, and that may change too. That's something else. That's my next point is, are there specific species that, I'll give you an example, redbud, Cercis. Our topic in November is going to be about imported plants versus local. And we planted a ton of redbuds. They're a native plant, but a lot of them aren't grown here, and then a lot of them aren't used to being blasted with, you know, an ice storm. So there's some things here that it's going to be affecting what plants you decide to put in the landscape. It may affect what species, and it also is going to be an issue with, you know, talking with the client and making sure that they still understand all the benefits of planting trees and they don't get disheartened by, you know, losing a whole bunch of plant material. So the last thing, and this will be really quick, is I don't know if you remember 2011, Landscape Ontario went to St. James Park and resodded the whole park after Occupy. And then last year, Landscape Ontario was in partnership with the municipalities helping out with the ice storm. Now, this may seem like a reach, but both of those things basically happened because of a phone call and a flurry of activity, and then everybody got together and got on the same page and did something. Well, I'm thinking that maybe we need to have something a little bit more formalized, and maybe we need to have a group that sort of handles crises as they come up, and so that we can react quicker as a group. Maybe we're not going to have an ice storm every year, but it seems like we've been kind of lurching from crisis to crisis as we go. I mean, you know, people's basements are all flooding. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on beyond the borders of our business that there's opportunities as well. So that's the final thing. Is as a group, maybe we need to be a little bit more organized in how we respond to these things. So that's basically what I wanted to say. And those three numbers, I didn't make those up. That's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And you can look those up on my website. It's got all the links to the original reports. And my take-home message is, don't think of last year as a fluke. Just try to adapt and think of how you can move forward, and maybe tweaking your program and how you deal with the clients going forward. Okay? And you can all use that on your round table, which is coming up right now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so on the back of the handout Janet put together, there's some topics, again, stuff that Janet might have mentioned or